It's a foggy night in the autumn of 1988. A group of American soldiers moves along a lonely road in the Hunsrück, in southwestern Germany. They pass a small stone chapel where, for generations, a candle has burned. That night, the candle is out, and a few hours later, something enormous will rise onto two legs on the other side of a military fence. Here's the question: what did those men really see that night? An animal? Their own fear? Or something that had been waiting nearly 2 centuries for that flame to go out? And wait, because the strangest part isn't what they claim to see. The strangest part is where this legend actually came from, and who invented it. Let's take it step by step, because to understand that night in 1988, you first have to understand the story that came before it. According to the legend, it all begins in 1812. A deserter named Thomas Johannes Baptist Schweitzer, supposedly a veteran of Napoleon's disaster in Moscow, was fleeing toward his homeland in Alsace. With him traveled a group of Russians, also deserters. The tale says that starving, they raided a farm near the village of Wittlich. They marked out a farmhouse and decided to take whatever they wanted. In the middle of the looting, the farmer caught them. They murdered him along with his children. And here comes the twist. The farmer's wife, a witness to the crime, let out a scream and cursed Schweitzer. From then on, at every full moon, he would turn into a rabid wolf. The curse, the legend says, came true. But it's worth pausing here because this part of the story doesn't add up. And it doesn't add up for one very specific reason we'll see at the end. For now, just hold on to this. That full moon detail is a clue that gives away when all of this was really invented. Let's continue with the legend. Days later, beside a campfire in the woods, Schweitzer was discovered by a group of villagers who took him for the werewolf. They hunted him down and cornered him near the village of Morbach. There they killed him and buried him at a crossroads. The most gruesome version says they drove a stake through the corpse's heart and beheaded it, just in case. Over the grave they raised a small stone chapel with an image of the Virgin Mary. And they lit a candle, an eternal flame that would watch over the monster's remains and prevent its return. As long as that candle burned, the legend said, the werewolf would not come back. And for generations, someone kept that flame alive. Until 1988. Now we're there. Let's go back to that foggy night. In the late 1980s, an incident shook a group of American servicemen at the Morbach Air Force Ammunition Depot. They claimed they had run into a creature that looked like the Morbach monster itself. The sequence, as it's told, went like this. A group of security police were on their way to their post at Morbach when they noticed the chapel candle was out. And they all joked about the monster. They laughed, they shrugged it off. After all, it was just an old village story, but the night wasn't over. Later, a sensor alarm went off along the fence line. When the security police went to investigate, one of them saw an enormous dog-like animal stand up on its hind legs, look at him, and leap over a metal fence more than 2 meters high. Think about that for a second. A fence over 2 meters tall, in a single jump. And here comes the detail that froze the soldiers' own blood. They brought a military tracking dog to the spot where the creature had last been seen. And the dog went wild. It wanted nothing to do with following the trail. A trained working dog refusing to track. That's what turned a barracks anecdote into a legend told over and over. But wait, because when you start pulling the thread, the story gets far stranger. And not because of the monster, because of something else. Because here's the problem. This legend, so very German, so much a part of the misty Hunsrück forest, is actually barely known in Germany. In 2008, the Mainz cultural anthropologist Matthias Burgard published a rigorous study of the case. His book is titled Das Monster von Morbach, and it carries a revealing subtitle, A Modern Legend of the Internet Age. Burgard did the fieldwork. He investigated the sites of the legend in Wittlich and in Morbach, combed the internet, contacted numerous users online, and surveyed the American soldiers stationed in the Hunsrück. And his conclusion? It's devastating. Although the legend of the Morbach monster originated in Germany, it never took root there, and it doesn't really come from Germany. The author makes clear that, despite what's claimed on English-language forums, the legend originates entirely with American soldiers stationed in Germany. And while werewolf legends are indeed known in the Hunsrück region, the Morbach monster has no connection to them. In other words, the old Napoleonic curse, the eternal candle, the werewolf of 1812, it's not centuries-old folklore. It's a story that was largely built by young soldiers, far from home, at the height of the Cold War, in a dark and unfamiliar forest. And that detail we left hanging at the start, the transformation at the full moon, fits perfectly here. Because this is one of the very few werewolf legends that includes the need for a full moon, something that is actually an invention of the movies, of the 1941 film The Wolfman. In other words, the full moon gives away the authors. It's Hollywood, not medieval folklore, and Burgert himself, who walked those woods to investigate, admitted something unsettling. He said he's skeptical on principle, and that in the witness testimonies he starts from errors of perception. But he also acknowledged that walking through the Hunsrück forest with the legend in his head, his own unconscious image of that place shifted a little toward the American perspective. Fear, even in a researcher, is contagious. Now then, that the Morbach legend is modern doesn't mean the fear of the werewolf on the Rhine was invented. That fear was real, and it killed. Let's go back 2 centuries before Napoleon to that same Rhineland. On October 31st, 1589, a huge crowd gathered in the German town of Bedburg, near Cologne, to witness an execution. The condemned man was Peter Stumpp, a farmer around 50 years old who had confessed to making a pact with the devil. Under torture, Stumpp confessed to savage crimes in what was perhaps the harshest trial of Germany's werewolf panics. According to the justice of the time, he committed at least 16 murders over a period of 25 years in the Rhine region, supposedly in the form of a wolf. His execution was extremely cruel. He was stretched on a wheel where his flesh was torn from the bones with red-hot pincers. His legs and arms were broken with an axe so he could never return from the grave. While the accused howled in pain, his daughter and his mistress were burned alive. Finally, Stumpp was beheaded. Was he a real killer dressed up in superstition, or a scapegoat? Historians still debate it. Some point out that the years the crimes were attributed to him coincided with an internal spiritual and political war. The electorate of Cologne was in turmoil over the introduction of Protestantism. Stumpp, who had supposedly converted to Protestantism, may have looked like a convenient example. Notice the pattern. In the Rhine of the 16th century, fear of the werewolf served to destroy a real man. In the Rhine of the 20th century, that same fear was reborn among frightened soldiers in the dark. So what did the soldiers see that night in 1988? The soberest theories point to the usual suspects. Maybe it was a wolf, a pack of wild dogs, or even an exotic animal escaped from someone's private collection. And above all, the human factor. Young men, far from home, tired and under constant tension during the Cold War. Fear spreads fast in the dark. All it takes is for one person to scream. The brain fills in the gaps, shadows become eyes, movement becomes a monster. And that, perhaps, is the most honest answer. The Morbach monster didn't crawl out of a grave at a crossroads. It came out of the minds of a handful of frightened men in a foreign forest, mixing a Hollywood movie with centuries of very real European terror. Because the werewolf of the Rhine never needed to be real to do harm. All it needed was for someone to believe in it, and for a candle on some ordinary night to go out.